Fellow class, today we are going over 4.2 trig functions, and this is review if you remember sine, cosine, and tangent, and how we remember to where it is placed is SOHCAHTOA, and I'll go more into detail with that once we get there. So here are trig functions and reciprocal trig functions. And what I mean by that, so let's go over here first. So you see that triangle. And basically what I'm talking about when I say SOHCAHTOA, so the OH in SOHCAHTOA for sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That's the O and the H. O and H. And then for cosine, it was CAH, C-A-H. So that is the adjacent for the A. And then the hypotenuse. And then TOA is opposite and adjacent for the O. So TO, opposite over adjacent. And you can see from the representation that I also put X, Y, and R. So for adjacent is the X value, and then for the opposite is the Y value, and the hypotenuse is the R value. So for all my opposites, I'm gonna put Y. And then for all my adjacents, I'm gonna put X. And then for all of my hypotenuse, I'm gonna replace it with R. So you can see that we can also say it's like this if this is how you represent the triangle in your trig function. And now that we got that out of the way, we need to go over the reverse trig functions, which is basically the reciprocal of the counterpart. For example, cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine components. So instead of it being opposite over hypotenuse, it is hypotenuse over the opposite, or R over Y. And then for secant is the opposite, the reciprocal of cosine, so it's hypotenuse over adjacent. Which if we present cosine was X over R, so now this is R over X. And then lastly, instead of opposite over adjacent, for cotangent, it would be adjacent over the opposite. As I said, is the reciprocal of its counterpart, which I put, if you can see, I kind of put it towards each other, and it'll be X over Y. If you need to write this down, please pause the video now as I am going to move forward. So here is an example. The example 1 says evaluate all 6 trig function of the given angle. And the given angle is 5 pi over 6. And I already wrote down what that would look like for the X and Y value. And the reason why I know that is if you look at the unit circle, you can kind of tell where that is from the unit circle that we did in class. And so I'm gonna represent this as X and Y. And you're wondering, what is R? If you remember from the unit circle, the special triangle, we know that R is always equal to 1 in the cases. And if you don't believe me, if you actually did X squared plus Y squared equals R squared, you know, trying to solve for R from the right triangle, you will get that R is equal to 1. And now that we got that out of the way, I have my X, my Y, and my R. And all I have to do is plug in. So let's begin. So sine is y over r. So 1/2 over 1, which is 1/2. Easy enough. My cosine is x over 1. So I know square root of 3 over, or negative square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1 will just give me negative square root of 3 over 2. And then my tangent is y over x. So I know it's 1/2 divided by negative square root of 3 over 2. And I'm going to show you a little more. Sorry. And I wanted to show that, just in case we don't remember, when dividing fractions, you can just multiply by reciprocal. And what I mean by that is, since we have 1/2 divided by the square root of, or negative square root of 3 over 2, that's the same thing as saying 1/2 times 2 over square root of 3. And don't forget the negative. And then, you could do that. That'll be 1 and 1. You'll get 1 over negative square root of 3. And we're not supposed to have the square root of 3 in the denominator. So your answer will be negative square root of 3 over 3. And how I got that, you just multiply the numerator and the denominator by whatever the denominator is to try to get rid of the square root in the bottom. And now we can just do cosecant. Cosecant is just the reciprocal of 1/2, and the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. And then the reciprocal of cosine, which is square root of 3 over 2, is negative 2 square root of 3. And remember, I don't want the square root in the bottom, so you have to multiply by square root of 3 on top and bottom. So you get 2 and 3, like that. And then cotangent, I did get 1 over negative square root of 3 before I changed it. I'm just going to do reciprocal because we don't need to change it. If we do that, and it will just be negative square root of 3 over 1. But we know what anything over 1 is just going to be what the numerator is. If you need to write anything down, please pause the video and we will move on. All right. So please try this on your own, part B. And then once you are finished, we will continue through the video. Now that you've done the question on your own, let's see how you did. If you look into your unit circle to find where this is at, this is square root of 2 over 2, negative, and negative square root of 2 over 2. And like I said, we always know that our R value is 1. So sine is, gonna be this. If you got that, it's y over r. And then cosine is x over r, which our r is 1. So we got another negative square root of 2 over 2. Tangent is this divided by this, which would give us 1. So we know if the reciprocal of 1 is 1. And then we know that the reciprocal of the negative square root of 2 over 2 is 2 negative square root of 2, which would just be negative square root of 2 because the 2 will cancel out. And same thing for this. If you got this, good job. If you didn't, please ask questions in class if you did not understand how to get that. And we'll move on to our final question. All right, this one's a little more complicated, but please do this one on your own and see how you do. Now that you've done this one on your own, I know that... Oh wait, let me pause that. Sorry about that. So do it with the negative. I apologize. And now you do this one on your own. Sorry about that. I'll give you a little more time. Now that you've done this one on your own, again, I apologize. We know that the negative 90, the coterminal is 270 degrees. That's the same thing as the negative 90 degrees. And we know in the unit circle, that would be 0 and negative 1. So now that we got that, and we know our R value is always going to be 1. Oh, actually, we don't really need to know that, actually, for this one, because this is the 90, like 90, 180, 270, so we don't need an R value for this one, per se. So I know this is negative 1, because right here, this is 0. And then tangent is y over x, and it'll be undefined because it'll be 1 over 0 or negative 1 over 0, and we know that's undefined. And then for cosecant, we know that the reciprocal of negative 1 is negative 1. The reciprocal of 0 would be undefined because it will be 1 over 0. And then for cotangent, because it was undefined because it was negative 1 over 0, now we get 0 over negative 1, which is 0. And that should be your final answer. If you have any questions, comments, or concern, please put it here now. Otherwise, we are done with this and you may leave. Bye.